In case I don't know you, I'm Shane Lee. I am the alumni director, and we are now, instead of being the Alumni Association and Foundation separate this summer, as you probably know, we merged into the Center of Alumni Relations and Advancement. And so I run the alumni relations aspect of that organization. And just wanted to thank all of you for attending today. I mean, we have quite a few people on today, and that's exciting to see. I would ask that you would mute your video and microphone while Dr. Rankin is speaking today. That way it just has a, we're recording this for people that aren't able to make it today, so it makes it a little bit cleaner. Once we get to the end of his presentation and talk, we'll open it up for some questions. And at that point, I'll ask you to unmute your video and audio. So it is my pleasure to introduce President Jim Rankin for the university, a EE graduate of 1978. And I'll let you take it away, sir.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. It's, as you say, 78. We had a student walk into admissions today that wanted to be an electrical engineer, and sometimes explaining to them, it was electrical or computer, and having to explain to them that I did that several decades ago, and computer engineering would have been great, but we didn't have it back then. So I don't think they quite understand all that. So, but it's always fun. Every time I see a new student walk into admissions, I always try to walk over, because I'm hoping that the fact that the president stopped and talked to he or she and their parents might make a difference when they decide where they're going to go to school. So I always try to walk over and step in. Well, let me run through. I've got just a brief presentation that I give at the CARA board meeting, and as I go to a lot of the industrial advisory boards we have in the different departments, this is presentation, and I give a little bit there as well. So let me share that. All right, did that come across? All right, I see Shane shaking his head yes, so we'll start there. So obviously a lot of things going on with COVID-19 here on campus. We started a few days early this year. We started on August 19th. We were actually supposed to start, I think it was on August 24th. What we did though is we got rid of all the 3-day weekends. We thought, you know, if students couldn't go home, then they would be less likely to pick up the virus and bring it back to campus. So we got rid of Labor Day and Native American Day and Veterans Day. And it's more that we're still working and going to class, but we have programming that we're doing to make sure that we don't lose the recognition of those 3 important days. We will go online Tuesday before Thanksgiving is our last day of class. Students will go home for the Thanksgiving holiday, and then the week after, they will do their finals online. I actually would be surprised if there's many online finals. I'm guessing it'll be projects or a research paper or a take-home exam, something like that. I think the faculty are going to be pretty creative on how they do their final exam, and so I think that's probably a pretty good idea. We have our dorm is at about 85% occupancy. We tried to cut back how many people we had in the dorms. We left 24 rooms and 59 beds vacant so that we would have room for quarantines and isolation. And so that's worked out real well for us. Obviously, there's a little financial hit when you don't have the dorms filled quite so full. But we did still have students in quads and students in doubles and normal singles. We did offer before the semester, if you'd like to have a single because of the COVID or any other reason, that's a possibility, but we didn't have a lot of people take us up on that. We tended to keep using the quads and doubles as they go forward. So we've got about, I think, 900, a little over 900 students that were in the dorms this fall. Normally we can run about 1,100 students in the dorm. We've changed the dining. We actually started out with dining. We were doing dining in the lower level of Surbeck. We converted the Surbeck ballroom into dining. We were doing dining in the library and then up at the King Center. So we started out with 4 locations to do dining. The King Center didn't get a lot of use, so we closed that down. And same with over at Devereaux Library, we didn't get a lot of use there as well, so we closed that one down. So mostly it's back to Surbeck. Everything is, there's no buffet lines. Everything is to go. We use it's almost a permanent to-go box where you get it, you use it, and when you're done with your meal, you bring it back, and they put it through the dishwasher so it's clean for the next time you come through. And all you can eat is a little different because instead of just going back through the line, you go back and scan your card, and the card knows you paid once already, and so it lets you through to go back as many times as you want. So you can still do that method. And you can see a link there. We've actually got our Rockers return plan is up on the website. And if you have any questions, please feel free to take a look at that. I think that first week or so, we jumped to about 43 positive students. And I forget the exact number of quarantines. We dropped down to, I think the last week of September, we were down to about 5 positive cases on campus. And that's creeped back up to about 15 right now. We only have had 7 faculty or staff that were positive, and at the moment we're back down to 0 in terms of faculty and staff doing that. I think what we've been doing seems to have worked in terms of controlling the virus here on campus. I can't say that in Pennington County or in the state of South Dakota. Those numbers continue to grow at a pretty rapid rate, and so I think what we're doing has worked out well. Probably the biggest, in fact, we have a student town hall this afternoon, and I would think that the biggest complaint we will have is that we went through every classroom we have and we figured out what the COVID capacity was. Where could you sit and be 6 foot away from other students? And when we did that, that put our capacity down to about 25 to 30% of what it normally was in a classroom. We've put a camera in every classroom, and so if you're not in class, you can actually watch it live streamed on our learning software, or it also gets recorded so you can go back and take a look at it. And I think that's the one thing we'll talk about today at the town hall a lot is how do we increase the number of students that are in the class, that are in person? Because obviously engineering and science, as you all know, it's a hands-on experience. So we need to get students back into that mode as soon as we can. We really didn't have much of a M week or a Rockers Day this year. We did have a football scrimmage on Saturday. We had the Frosh run around the track. It was a strange fall because I don't think I saw a beanie outside of the M Day run around the track, and I saw one senior hat. So we need to get that fired up again. Our student development team is looking for, let's put some of these events on April 21st, and hopefully we'll be in a better situation where we can have folks coming back to campus. I think April 21 is often our alumni day back here, where we used to have the spring football game and things of that nature. So we're going to try to move some of the M week activities back into April. And as it says there, there's a website over in student development that talks about what they're planning and what the schedule is for that. A few new programs. We've just got approved a new PhD in electrical engineering with South Dakota State, and we also did a joint PhD in mechanical engineering with South Dakota State. We already had that, and so we paired the two together to do a joint activity. A new master's degree in green and sustainable chemistry, a Mining 360 certificate you can get for companies who work in the mining industry, but their employees don't necessarily have a mining engineering degree. So it was more of a informational for their employees. So we've added that. Take a look at our new department heads. We've had quite a turnover in department heads here recently. And so you can see those on there. Probably should have Tom Montoya listed. He's the interim department head over in electrical engineering and doing a great job there as well. So we've had some turnover, some of the folks retiring and some of these a new replacement. Rob Hall's new, just coming in out of Canada. In fact, I think he's traveling back from Canada right now to take over that. And then we've made a few name changes in our departments. 96% placement rate. You know, usually we're at 97 or 98, but we didn't see much hiring the last quarter of fiscal year 20. And so we still were at a 96% placement rate. And you can see some of the companies that are continuing to hire our graduates. Internships is probably where we had the biggest hit. We had a lot of internships canceled, and the students didn't have that opportunity to get an internship in. Which obviously that's a good chance not only for them to find out about the different companies, but it also paid them a good salary as they went forward. As a result of that, we had probably the best turnout we've ever had for summer classes. I think we more than doubled our offerings of summer classes, and enrollment was the best we'd ever seen in the summer. So I think there was a lot of students, because they couldn't do internships, took advantage of that. If you remember McClory, it's a whole new looking building. Just went through a 3-phase renovation. You can see it looks sparkling new there in some of these pictures. So that one, we just opened that one up in August. That building now houses math and then computer science and engineering. Our number one request we're going to the legislature with this year is to replace the MI building, the Mineral Industries building. We're asking the state legislature for $19 million. We're looking to work with industry partners and donors to raise $12 million. And then the university will put $3 million in out of the budget we have. And so that's the number one fundraising priority that we have. We're really working hard on that. This is the first time the Board of Regents has put this on their request to the governor's office. So we're already a step ahead of where we've been in the past. So that's great. We've got approved by the legislature last year to upgrade Devereaux Library, and the goal is to turn this into a hub for students. Right now, the top 3 floors have books in it that probably don't get used very often. And so what we're going to do is we're going to move any journal and book holdings we have to the top floor. The ground floor and the second floor will have student success. It'll have math tutoring. We're going to move the Einstein's coffee shop over. It'll be on the ground floor. And so we're really trying to make this a place that will attract students to come and spend time. There's just not enough study space in Surbeck. And so we will go to the Board of Regents in December with our plan for what it is to construct. And I don't know if you can see my mouse here or not, but we've taken a lot of bricks out. This is just a early design concept, but if you remember, it's all of those sections are brick. There's not much light that comes into the building, and so we're trying to open that up. What used to be the white concrete risers will be painted sandstone to match the rest of campus, and we'll put more of a steel up above the windows. And so this will look much more closer to the design over at the Pearson Alumni Center. It'll look more like our chemical and biological engineering new wing. And so that's the new look that we're going after for the Devereaux Library. There'll also be in there some small rooms so that 6 to 8 students can work on team projects together. So these would be glassed in walled rooms with monitors so that they can share their screen and be working together on projects. A lot of team oriented work. There'll also be a maker space in there. We delayed Surbeck because with student success moving out, we were trying to figure out we needed to rethink what's going on. So we've just started looking at Surbeck again. One of the things we're looking at is maybe we ought to move admissions from O'Hara down to this building because it's a much more pleasant looking building for prospective students to come into. So that's one of the things we're looking at right now. The other one I don't mention here, we're talking with the local school districts and with the city. The football stadium needs to be renovated. The current stadium does not have women's locker rooms in it. There's just limited capacity for the teams down there. The state keeps threatening to pull the state track meet out because of the facilities we have. So we're looking at also renovating the football stadium down there. Going up on M Hill, you get a chance to see what the M looks like up there, and it's not in very good shape. We met with 5 local contractors who were also alums, and they suggested we put a civil engineering senior design project together, and That's what happened last fall. Scott Kenner led that. And you can kind of see some of the damage that's up there on the M. And so one of the plans they came up with, which is, I think is exciting, I think it's a great idea, is how do we pull these plaques out? How do we re-pour that M and then clean the plaques up, put them back in, maybe have a special spot for the 5-year reunion plaques because they're kind of scattered around the hill. And then the walking path you can see on the lower right. How do we make that into something with switchbacks and maybe some seats so that you can rest on the way up the hill? So lots of good thoughts going on that. So it'll be interesting to see how that can be moved forward. Briefly, just on research, outstanding research year last year, up above $18 million on research awards. We're leading the state on a project on biofilms out of chemical engineering. It has been outstanding. And one of the things we're working with the governor's office right now is called bioprocessing. It's what's the next big thing for South Dakota? And so it teams South Dakota State and the School of Mines. What can we do with row crops and timber to make new biomaterials? You know, things beyond the ethanol that Poet sells. How do we make new markets and create new jobs so that graduates can stay in South Dakota? So you're going to be hearing a lot more about that as we go forward. And then we played football Saturday. We played Black Hills State. I don't remember the score, but I think we beat them by 2 touchdowns. I think we started at 82-degree weather and the ramps were full. And it was just a great day to be outside and get a chance to see some football action. I think somebody told me there were only like 6 or 8 Division II football teams playing on last Saturday. So we will play BH. We played BH this week, and we'll play them again up there on November 7th. This Saturday, we play Shadron down there, and then they're back up here on Halloween Day. So it's kind of a strange season when we have back-to-back or a home and home series with our 2 rivals. We'll also play Colorado Mesa and Nebraska Kearney. We wanted to play Northern State. We didn't get a chance to do that because Northern's in a different conference and their conference would not let them play in the fall. So we thought Northern or Augie would have been an interesting contest as well, but they just couldn't play, so we had to pass on that. They're deciding today what to do with fall commencement. Spring was virtual. We're looking, is there something we could do that would be in person? Hopefully we'll have some decision yet today. And in our spring semester, if you're paying attention to universities around you, a lot of universities in the nation canceled spring break. Did you want students to go to South Padre Island or Mexico and then come back to campus? Our Board of Regents last week voted to keep spring break. We will do our spring semester as published in the schedule with no changes. So, but that's kind of an update on what's going on here on campus. Let me open it up for any questions.
Well, I apologize if I muted your cameras, but if you have a question, feel free to unmute and go ahead and ask. Ray Dennis?
This is this is Ray. Are you looking at putting a dome on the new stadium renovation? I want to similar to a place you're familiar with, St. Cloud State University in Minnesota. They put a dome on theirs that's worked out really well. So
I did not realize they did that up there. When I was a faculty member at St. Cloud State, they never took recruits there because it was such a bad stadium. You know, the only person that I've had suggest a dome here were the people who own like the Alex Johnson Hotel and a lot of the hotels and the dining facilities trying to bring more people in. But we haven't talked about a dome there. One of the things we have talked about is an event center up above the ramps with a 300-meter indoor track. Our track athletes have to go to Spearfish and run on the BH tracks right now. But you could attract all these parents that have to take their kids to Sioux Falls and Denver for gymnastics and indoor soccer and indoor basketball in the winter. We could attract them here, fill up our hotels and our restaurants, and at the same time have an outstanding track indoor facility right above. we were hoping glass walls so you could watch the football game from the glass walls of the event center. And we'll see what happens with that. But that's kind of what we were thinking.
Yeah, this would just be temporary in the winter, then you take it down in the spring. But log on to St. Cloud State and you can take a look. That's all I
Yeah,
have.
I'll do that.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question that they'd like to ask?
Yes, I do. Is
Go ahead.
perfect. I am Rush Bardwaj. I'm a chemical engineering graduate from 2015, and right now I work as a data scientist in Georgia Pacific. So I was wondering whether the school is doing anything towards having a data science program or anything related to data analytics.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, data analytics is such a hot topic right now with industry. And so we are taking a look at that. And I know I'm going to get this wrong, but I believe that computer science, math, and industrial engineering are looking at putting together a graduate program in data science. So we are taking a look at that right now. I'm not sure exactly where an undergraduate program would go at that point, but we really need to get into this ball game. We have to be a little bit careful because obviously Dakota State has got a lot of the cybersecurity and a lot of the computer science pieces going over there. I don't think we're going to step on their toes. I think this is an area we all need to have. So we're going to continue to push that forward. I think our notice to plan will go to the board here within the next few months.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. After graduation, I worked as a chemical engineer, but then I was a big fan of using data analytics in chemical engineering and in process engineering. So I went ahead and I did my master's in business analytics from Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. But it would have been great if I could have the opportunity to come back and do it at School of Mines.
And I think that, one of the positives there is, computer science and data analytics, you can do that from South Dakota. As long as you've got a good internet connection, you can start your own company, you can have your job and stay right here in state. So I think that it's really a win-win for the state and for the school.
Thank you.
Bill McMillan here.
Also have a question through chat from Jin Kim. Could you talk a little bit about the enrollment numbers at Mines and plans for recruitment and growth of student numbers?
Yeah, good question. We were down a little bit. I think we were down 52 students in head count this year, which was about a 2% drop for us. Our full-time equivalents were down about 5%. We had planned for 3% in our budgeting because we thought there's going to be some students who don't want to come back to campus. So we had planned for that. So we haven't had to do any layoffs or anything or any furloughs on campus, which has been good. Our strategic plan calls us to get up to about 3,150 of total students. And so we've got some work to do. And, we've just gone through some new marketing. We've gone through a strategic enrollment plan to go off and to try to recruit more students to come in here to South Dakota. We're at about 50% of our student body is out of state. So we have to be a little bit careful on how we recruit because I know the legislators, that can be a sensitive area, how we move that forward. We're also looking to grow a number of graduate students. The Carnegie classifications, right now we're considered a special focus school and there's only 7 of us in the nation and the other 6 are privates. We really want to become a Carnegie Research 2 institution. You need $5 million in research a year to do that. Not a problem, we're way over that. But you need to have 20 PhD graduates in a year and we keep bouncing between 15 and 18. With the new EE PhD program and some of the activity going on with new research, I think we'll get there within the next couple of years. Let me follow up with one other thing. The other thing, part of enrollment is retention. And, I've said several times, we got to get rid of this idea of look to your left and look to your right and only one of you is going to be there. We got to get more students through. And that's what we're looking at is how do we retain the students? How do we help them graduate? Because I mean, the worst thing we can do is have a student come for a year or two and then drop out because now they've got student debt and no degree. So how do we help students be successful? That's a big part of enrollment as well.
This is Jim Cotis, and I had a question. I had read where the state is pushing to combine schools in South Dakota, and I was wondering if that's gaining traction and what it would mean for mines.
Yeah, the Senator Maher from up in the McIntosh area had put together Senate Bill 55 last year. And Senate Bill 55 said, let's combine the administrations of mines in Black Hills State. And during the session that got revised, it became, let's take a look at all 6 public institutions in the state to see where we could be smarter. They met last week on Thursday for the first time, and they've broken it up into 3 groups. How do you look at academics? How do you look at administration? And how do you look at infrastructure? There could be some really positive things come out of it. You know, our track record is so good. And in fact, the executive director in the meeting pointed out that we were the #1 return on investment engineering school in the nation for 3 straight years. So, you know, we've got quite a reputation there. I think the places that we probably have to look at is combining administrations with BH. I don't think that's off the table. I don't see them closing one school or the other, but I can see them looking for us to combine. You know, like Black Hills State doesn't have career services, and we've got a really strong career services. And the question is, could we share something like that? Title IX, could we share coordinators? So we're looking at some of those things to go on. Some of the early studies in the 70s said there should only be 1 engineering college in the state. Obviously, that scares me a little bit more. Worst case in my mind is we've become South Dakota State Rapid City. So we'll see where this goes, but this is just early on. Like I say, they've had 1 meeting. Their goal is to have the report done by June of next year, delivered to the governor by November.
Hi, Patrick Hollower, 76, ME 76. A couple of years ago in the Industrial Advisory Board meeting, we observed that we have to learn to change along with the technology that has developed. And I brought up a second suggestion to doing more and more learning how to do things online, extended learning, such as Phoenix University and Capella and so on. But the other thing I see is capitalizing on universities that want to offer technical programs, but don't have the laboratories and they don't have the people in those laboratories to do it. PhD level, master's levels, and that sort of thing. Plus, they don't have the Black Hills to do that, and they don't have the camp program. We know that our camp program is absolutely outstanding in developing a well-rounded student. I could see private investment companies building and upgrading laboratories, science and engineering laboratories in the Black Hills, perhaps on campus there very near, and we would partner with these universities that offer online programs, because we got to admit, one thing that COVID did is it forced us to upgrade and adapt to some of the technologies that has to be done. There's millions of students all across this country now learning how to learn to do things online. But as you said earlier, we must have hands-on in these laboratories. So I would like to see an investigation into what is that marketplace? What is that niche that we could fill? Black Hills are beautiful, great tourist destination. Lots of people like to come there for that. There's a lot of positive attributes about the School of Mines that I think we can make great use of and really build up our labs.
Yeah, I think, you know, I guess in the past, we've had 5% of our courses have been online, and most of those have been in our 3 graduate programs on management. I think this last semester showed that, wow, we could teach a lot of things online. And so we're taking a look at some of those. We hear from students who are across the state who took calculus from Northern, and they would have liked to taken that from us, is how do we get into some of those gen ed courses? We've got that new undergraduate degree, business management in technology, where it's 2 years of engineering science, a year of business at BH, and a year of management with us. Good opportunity for online. And yeah, I think there's some real opportunities, and we're only going to get better at this. We offered classes to faculty this summer. Of our 140 faculty, 100 of them signed up for Teaching Online 101, because it was such a difference for most of our faculty that they sat down and they took a week out of their summer to go through a class and learn how to get better at that. So there is a lot of opportunity out there on how we get to online, and then how do we take advantage of the labs and the hands-on pieces that we have. So no, good point.
Yeah, I just wanted to reflect the same thing. James Pulaski, I'm an industrial engineer, 2009. I really feel like, you know, with all the recording you're doing of classes, and, you know, there might be a real opportunity to get people interested in the School of Mines in general. I mean, what a lot of universities, I think, are doing is they're now offering some of those classes that they're teaching. You said that you're recording every session anyway. I mean, there might be an opportunity to get people hooked on some of your courses and then start looking at distance learning. And I feel that's a real positive. The other thing I was excited about what you said earlier about data analytics. You know, I ended up going into industrial engineering, and because manufacturing was so bad in this country for so many years, I ended up going into healthcare. And there's a real demand in healthcare for informatics and data-driven decision making. And so, you know, I'm really excited about the possibility of the mines doing more with data analytics, and possibly a master's degree in something like that would be very attractive.
Oh, I agree.
This is Steve Maher, Math 84. Senator Maher is a not so distant relative of mine who grew up about 10 miles away from where I grew up. So I'll have a word with him and make sure that he sees the, sees the light. But I also want to mention that I wasn't able to convince either of my kids to go to my alma mater, but I did convince my niece. So I've got a niece coming to Mines next year, who's a National Merit Scholar and got a perfect score on her ACTs. So I'm very proud of her, and I'm proud that she's chosen to come to Mines.
No, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, Senator Maher he's been good. In fact, he put it on, the other bill he put in last year was to add taxes to bentonite, and then all the money that would have been coming off those taxes would have come to us to help build the mineral industries building. It didn't pass, but at the same time, he was looking for what he could do to help us and help universities in Western South Dakota.
Jim, this is Bill Betton, physics and EE 77. So I've got a question for you, a little bit different slant on economic development in Rapid City and the Black Hills. I know there was some emphasis a while back on building an environment. The old post office area had been taken over for entrepreneurial building and development. There's a mention in the questions about the Sanford Deep Underground Laboratory. What are your thoughts on the School of Mines as continuing to be an economic engine for the area, and what progress has been made on that front?
Yeah, it's important. If you're not familiar with my background, I was a VP of Research and Economic Development, so that's a real interest of mine. And I think, one of the complaints we often hear about the School of Mines is, only 25 to 30% of our graduates stay in state in the year. Well, in my mind, that's not really our problem. We're producing good graduates. We've got to do better at creating startup companies and creating more jobs and getting companies to move to South Dakota so that they don't have to leave if they don't want to. So we've got to keep pushing that. One of the metrics we talked about the other day with Joseph Wright out of our economic development and research area was we should have a goal of at least 4 startup companies a year, 2 student and 2 faculty. And what do we do to create those jobs? And so it really is an interest of mine. I think that's something we need to do, and it's going to benefit not only the school, but the local area. So we really need to keep putting pressure on to keep doing that. And things are going good. If you have not seen the press release, one of our faculty members, Todd Minkhaus, had a startup company called Nano Corel, which could do biofiltering. Just got bought out last week, and Gamma Biosciences, and they're going to stay here in Rapid City. So that's the first major exit we've had where one of our startup companies have been purchased by a larger company. And that's a great track record. And if you have not followed Elevate Rapid City and the new Ascent Innovation Building, it's If you're my vintage, that's where Tom's Place used to be. But it's just on the north side of the post office. And they'll be done here, I think, in December with this new building. They'll move the startup companies out of the incubator that's behind O'Hara here. And that's our goal, is to purchase that building because we need more research space here so that we can keep doing that innovation and creating startup companies. So yeah, it definitely is an interest area for us.
Hi, this is Bill Larson. I graduated in '68 with a math degree. I'm curious as to how the new logo and name has been received, both in the press and by students and by alumni, but even more importantly, how is the university using that to better leverage what's going on there at the School of Mines?
Well, I will admit it hasn't been 100% accepted by everybody. We still have some folks that are unhappy with it, but it really, you know, the M was the new look. We had such trouble with the cap M because of the University of Michigan trademark problem, and making sure, you know, that we had to put the name around it completely, and that made it hard to use in our branding and our literature. So the new M has got that cleaner look. It really is a standalone. We don't have that confusion. But to tell you the truth, I think the piece that may be the most important in that is that under our call sign of South Dakota Mines, it says an engineering, science, and technology university. And we would have a lot of students when we try to recruit, well, are you a university? What do you mean you're a school? And can I do anything other than mining? And so I think it's been well received. You know, Grubby didn't change, M Hill didn't change. And so we've kept a lot of the traditional pieces as we've gone forward. And I'll hear alums tell me, well, I wasn't too excited at first, but that new logo has kind of grown on me. So I think it's going across well. And you know, I think we surveyed like 1,200 different students, and we had, or 1,200 people. We had alums, students, faculty, staff, all involved, and tried to find the best place. And I'll be honest with you, I was hoping that we would become South Dakota Tech, because that's what it was when I was here. But those that are older than I am, it was Mines, and those who came after me, it was Mines, and I didn't have much say in that one. So we stayed with South Dakota Mines because that made us unique.
Thank you.
This is Rob Howe. Got two questions for you. One, to help your recruiting process and take advantage of the COVID technology changes, do you do any advanced placement training in the high schools around the state? And the second question is, do you stream all your activities, football games, basketball games, as well as major events? I go to your website, can I see all those things? I guess I haven't looked.
Yeah, athletics is an easy one because the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference we belong to requires that you stream all events. And so you can do that. If you go to gorockers.com, that's the website for all the athletic events, and you can get there. We try to stream where we can. We have something called Steam Cafe we do once a month, where we bring in a speaker at one of the local brew pubs, and that was being live streamed. And actually South Dakota Public Broadcast picked it up for a while, and they were streaming it also. So we try to do that. I don't know, you know, one of the discussions we have this a lot, is how well do we market? And, you know, we have an ongoing conversation. Some folks, when they want to put billboards up on the other side of the state, and you know, is that really the right way to reach prospective students nowadays, or is it Snapchat or TikTok or some other social media? So, you know, I'm not sure we've optimized our marketing to prospective students about the career they can get if they come to the School of Mines, and we need to be better at that. I would admit that in a hurry.
It seems like that when I substitute teach at the high schools in Sioux Falls, that there's a lot of conversation around South Dakota State and University of South Dakota, and we're not getting the press inside the high schools like we should. And I'm thinking that there's a fair number of smart kids that do a lot of advanced placement courses, and if somehow School of Mines can connect into those advanced placement courses early on, that might be the pathway to School of Mines.
No, I think you're exactly right. And we've got to do a better job of marketing that. And, you know, if anyone has connections into the local high schools that can help us out, we're always glad to have that help.
Okay.
Jim, it's Rhea Dahlstrom on this.
Yep.
I'm way out of the territory down in Texas, but mostly it seemed like we reached the parents first when we were doing the live recruiting, which we couldn't do this year. And they were looking at the dollars, and then you could introduce how good the school is, because you know they'd look at it and think it was San Diego, just because they have no clue what's outside the region. But yeah, it was reaching a lot of the high school parents about the payback, et cetera, in their investment before we could actually get the students interested.
No, I think that's an excellent point. You know, that return on investment number we put out is great. You know, the cost to come here versus like Colorado School of Mines, there's a huge difference. You know, we do lose a few people to Colorado School of Mines, you know, even though their tuition is double almost what you would pay to come here, they will give a larger scholarship. Well, they're still paying more to go there, but sometimes it's hard to convince the parents that we're giving them a better deal. They just think, well, that, you know, Colorado loves us more. They gave us more money. They don't quite understand the bottom line at times, and we've got to continue to fight that and push hard.
President Rankin, this is Sarma. I am an alumni from meteorology 1978. I got a master's from there. And then I was one of the first guinea pigs in a cooperative PhD program at Colorado State. And so that is a question I had is, you know, you mentioned a desire to grow your PhD program. Have you looked at reviving the cooperative programs? Because at that time, the cooperative PhD program with Atmospheric Science Department in Colorado State was just done by Meteorology Department because of the relationships that Harry Orville and Paul Smith had with Bill Cotton of Colorado State. But it kind of died after 2 or 3 iterations, I think. You know, I absolutely loved it because, you know, I get the benefit of being in a small school and also take courses in a much larger school who had the bandwidth to do the full spectrum of courses. So something like that, I think you may want to look at if you want to grow the PhD program.
No, a good point. We've got the joint PhD with South Dakota State in EE and mechanical. We have a joint PhD with USD in biomedical engineering. And the others have been undergraduate with Black Hills State in the business management. There's probably 1 or 2 other ones we're teaming, but right off the top of my head, I don't think we've got any out-of-state cooperative PhD programs. I'll have to look into that.
Okay, thank you.
We also have another one on chat from Mark Olson that what interaction is occurring between Sanford Underground Labs and mines, and what is being done to expand the interaction to form better research opportunities?
Yeah, great question. I get to sit on the South Dakota Science and Technology Authority, which is the board that runs SURF. So I get a chance to see what's going on up there a lot. We've got strong activity with our physics department and EE department. There's actually a couple other departments, and I'm gonna mess up the name, so I'll stop there. But we think there's a lot of opportunity, and you know, one of the things that's going on is they're looking at creating a SURF institute, kind of like the ones you see in Europe, that you come around CERN or something and do your research there, and you can stay right there. We've got some folks on the board that are saying, don't put that at LEED, put that down there at the School of Mines. Let us help you run that. And so it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. I think that is really a lot of opportunity for us. One of the things coming is, I think there's supposed to be a press release out today, and I have not seen it yet, but be looking for a industry partnership that is with us in terms of research and was also with SURF. One of the things we're looking at is, could you do automated activity in the mine? And so I think you're gonna you're going to see a very interesting project coming out in the PR. And like I say, it was supposed to be a press release today, but I haven't seen it yet.
One of the things I'd like to add, Dr. Rankin, is Terry Rasmussen, on recruiting. In Northeast Nebraska, I'm working with Northeast Community College, and they have a pre-engineering program that covers the first 2 years for the students. And that program has grown from 3 students to 22 students. And the reason I'm mentioning this again, I know I've sent you information about this before, but that may be happening at a lot of other community colleges where they have some pre-engineering students that have been recruited out of these high schools. And maybe we could pick them up a little bit easier because we know that they're interested in engineering. And you know, it might be an easy way to get some people that would be coming into their junior, kind of a sophomore, junior year, and you know, grab some easy fruit there.
Yep. No, in fact, I pinged our provost, Lance Roberts, about that on Monday. And his response is we're looking at articulation agreements with Nebraska, Colorado, and Wyoming, Gillette Community College and Sheridan. And so, in fact, I think Gillette will bring a group of students over here on October 30th to come see what we have. So there's a lot of opportunity there, and I think we're missing that. We're missing that transfer opportunity. And the other place we're short is we really don't have scholarships for transfer students. And so we really need to work on that as well to help entice those students to come here. Another articulation agreement that we're looking at is with Augustana. They've got some students who are interested in pre-engineering for 2 years and then going to an engineering school. Well, they just signed that with SDSU, but they also want to put one in place with us for those students that want to come west. So we are looking at those. We are not as successful with articulation agreements with the 4 technical colleges in South Dakota because they offer the AAS degree and not an AA degree. So it's a little bit tougher. You can do it, but it's almost on a case-by-case or program-by-program basis, and you have to lay each one out specifically. So we're looking at that, but we don't have all of that taken care of.
Well, we'll continue to try to send you more people from Northeast Nebraska.
Much appreciated.
Jeff Mallow asked, the question pertains to summer camp programs. Is there any plans on doing some online camp programs from living out of state, weather camps, not comfortable at the time only being a high school freshman, but would have, is there a possibility of having short online classes to prep and introduce them to the course for actual summer camp, or would pique students' interest and ease the concerns?
Yeah, it's a great idea. I'm gonna pass that along over to enrollment that runs our admissions rather that runs our summer camps and make sure they're thinking about that. I think we did a couple online this summer, but I have to tell you, I don't know the details of that.
Also had one, what the university is doing about diversity, equality, and inclusion.
Yeah, great. I had a meeting on Tuesday with a group of underrepresented students, trying to find out what the issues are and what we can do. Obviously, it's a tough time in the nation in terms of that. We do have an Office of Inclusion that helps everybody try to make sure you fit in. And, you know, it's actually broader than just diversity in that office because, you know, coming from a town of 200 people, School of Mines can look like a big place. And sometimes a student doesn't feel like they fit in. Or, you know, if you're coming out of the Denver metro area, you don't necessarily feel like you fit in here at Rapid City. It's such a small place. So it's broader than just in the diversity area, but we are continuing to make efforts to make sure that everybody feels comfortable here and that we can help them succeed when they get here. Jesse Herrera is our director of the Office of Inclusion and just does a fantastic job. We had a parent that came to orientation a year ago, and I was down in his area. And the mother came up to me. She says, you know, we just didn't know if this was going to be the right place for our son. because of the lack of diversity you have here. And they talked to Jesse for a while, and they walked over and they said, you know, after talking to Jesse, we know this is the right place for our son. We really have a tough time. We've got pressure from the legislature not to spend any money on diversity. At the same time, we've got companies that when they recruit, you know, they've stopped recruiting here because we don't have enough diversity in our student body. So it's really trying to work that balance, and it comes down to doing the right thing is what we're trying to do.
Just want to let everybody know we're down to about the last 5 to 10 minutes. Got another question. Is mine still involved in science fairs?
Yeah, we're still doing the science fair. Jade Herman in my office here runs all those, and I think it's a labor of love for her. She really likes putting that on. My understanding is the science fair this year will be virtual, if I remember what she told me. But no, we continue to do that. It's still a great way to meet prospective students, and we still do the math contest as well. I always tell them when I talk to them, you know, I did the math contest and science fair when I was in high school, but I never won any money. So I always appreciate when seeing how many winners we have come out of there.
Do we have any other questions?
I see Mike Cook told me that the football score was 34-17. So thanks for that, Mike. Oh, let me jump in here a second without a question, but if you're paying attention, you know, the B-21 is coming to Ellsworth Air Force Base to replace the B-1 we have out here. I just heard the other day, I think we have about 4,000 people stationed at Ellsworth right now. Somebody said the number of incoming airmen was like 5,500 or 6,500 coming in, and they were going to bring like another 4,000 family members with them. So Rapid City and Box Elder, I mean, the growth, you know, the number of the housing that we need around here, the schools that we need around here to take that growth in. And, you know, this Northrop Grumman and Collins Aerospace and all the vendors that go with it, we're trying to say, instead of putting your office out at Ellsworth, why don't you come put it near the School of Mines? Take advantage of the faculty and students that we have right here in the continuing education opportunities. So it's, you know, I think you're just going to see a complete change in some of the ways we do things with Ellsworth and the new B-21 program.
All right, any final questions that we have? All right, well, yeah, go for it.
We did have a careers fair here recently, and it was all virtual. Obviously not the best way to do a career fair. I think we've learned a few things because we only gave students a 10-minute slot to talk to companies. Companies and students both complained that was too short of a time to get to know each other. So the spring's career fair will be virtual again. Unfortunately, we don't have much choice because, you know, there's a lot of companies, and you all know it better than I do, that, you know, you're still working remotely. And so traveling and doing things like that are tough to do. So our spring will be we'll do a spring career fair again, will be virtual. But still a lot of interest from companies in hiring our students. And, you know, we're always glad to see that.
President, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Rob Howe, EE72. Back in the day, freshman year was a year of attrition. Kind of cull out a good chunk of the folks and focus on the select few the last 3 years. What kind of attrition do you have after the freshman year these days?
You know, it's interesting as the metric that gets tracked is first-time full-time freshman to sophomore, and we're running about 78% retention at that rate. And we're seeing that we'd like to get that up into the 80s is where we'd like that to be. What I'm catching on to is that the attrition is more sophomore to junior, because that's when Calc 2 catches up with them. So
Okay.
that's where we tend to lose them. But retention was up freshman, sophomore, junior, junior to senior. All of those transitions, that was up this last year. And so we were happy to see that. It's a little hard to tell how the metrics will look this year, because for the spring, the Board of Regents approved a pass-fail option for students. And so they could take a pass-fail if they didn't like the grade they were getting. And so that's gonna we probably had a higher retention rate because they weren't getting those lower grades and it wasn't affecting their GPA.
Okay. Thank you.
So in closing, wanted to thank you, President Rankin, one more time for your time today and taking time out of your schedule. So also wanted to ask everybody to, if you have an idea for a talk, because we're trying to do this every month on the third Thursday of the month is our webinar time slot. So if you have an idea for a topic that you'd really like to hear about, invite you to either email us at alumni.sdsmt.edu, or you can drop it in the chat here and I'll take it with me today. So I wanted to thank everybody for showing up. And next month we have Dr. Christine Matthews from our university. She's going to talk about some of the differences between flu and COVID and some of the information and misinformation that's been out there. So looking forward to that one next month in November. Want to thank everybody again and hope you all have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Rankin.
Mhm.